So we're going to start again today with tenths and hundredths. So if you have your place value chart out, you can use that. And remember, we're just focusing here, and tenths and hundredths, we're not doing anything in the ones place because everything that we're dealing with today is less than 1. Okay, so we're going to be converting back and forth between fractions and decimals. I'm going to get you started on this first page. And the left-hand side, they're all fractions to decimals, and the right-hand side is all decimals to fractions. So I'm actually going to fold up my little chart here so that I just see the place values that we're working with today. So when I'm going to write 34 hundredths, I'm going to need to have 2 place values to the right of the decimal. And then my decimal is going to go there. So that way my 3 is in the tenths and my 4 is in the hundredths. So that's how we read it, 34 hundredths. And I'm going to put a 0 here. We usually put a 0 in the ones place just to make it really clear that we have a decimal there. Okay. All right, moving on. We've got 9 tenths. So we know that's less than 1. I can put a 0 in the ones place, make my decimal, and I'm going to put my 9 in the tenths place. Okay, now I've got 84 hundredths. I don't have any holes because this is less than a whole. I'm going to put my decimal, and then if I just write 84, I can check. My 8's in the tenths, but my 4 is in the hundredths. So we read this number 84 hundredths. Okay, moving on down, we've got 23 hundredths, we would say. So we're going to put a 0 in the ones place, make our decimal, and then the 2 goes in the tenths. But because we have the 3 in the hundredths place, we read this number 23 hundredths. Okay, let's try one more. 7 tenths. We're going to write that a 0 in the ones place, a decimal, a 7 in the tenths place, and we don't need to put anything in the hundredths place. And we're going to read this number 7 tenths. We don't need to say 0 and 7 tenths because that's like saying we have nothing in 7 tenths, which is the same as saying 7 tenths. Okay? All right, now we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to turn these decimals into fractions. So the easiest way to do this is to read it out loud. We're going to say 45 hundredths, and that's how we're going to write it as a fraction. 45 hundredths. This one, we're going to read it out loud. We've got a decimal, and then the 6 is in the tenths, the 3 is in the hundredths, so we read it 63 hundredths. You could use this line if you want as your fraction bar. 63 hundredths. Now this one is a 3 only, and the 3 is in the tenths place. So we read this decimal 3 tenths, and that's how we write the fraction. 3 tenths. We read this decimal 29, 2 places over from the decimal, so 29 hundredths, and that's how we write the fraction. 29 hundredths. We read this fraction, decimal, 9, and the 9 is in the tenths place right next to the decimal, so we say 9 tenths, and we write 9 tenths. Now this one we write 5. 5's right here next to the decimal, so 5 tenths. We'll also notice, good luck finishing up the next 5 pages of your packet.